Good morning, LT. I have today with me Lieutenant Sciortino from the New Jersey State Police. He is the head of the Internet Crime Against Children Unit.
Morning, guys. Appreciate you having me here.
Thank
How
you
you
for
doing?
coming, LT.
Good to see you.
I've been actually wanting to have a great conversation regarding Internet sex crimes because it's so popular amongst everybody, pretty much, on the job and off the job. So, again, thanks for coming in, and I'm here with Rick as well.
Appreciate
To
it.
my
Thank you,
right.
sir.
Thank you.
Rick, you want to start with anything with the LT?
Yeah, Lieutenant, why don't you, again, thank you for coming. We appreciate it. And we believe that this is a topic that there's a lot of information that people are not familiar with, the law, what happens. So let's just jump into it.
Sure.
My first question is, kids nowadays, obviously everyone has iPhones and internet and social media.
Sure.
Can you explain to us exactly what happens, for example, if a kid receives a image on their iPhone that's explicit and it's involving a child? What law is in violation, for example, if that child forwards that photograph to his friends or some other people? And has that happened in the state where people maybe have forwarded an explicit photograph that they're actually in violation of the law and they don't even know it? Can you explain that, to how that works?
Sure. It has happened. It's common because if people get something, we'll call it's CSAM, child sexual abuse material, formerly known as child pornography, but that's the acronym we go with now.
Okay.
If somebody receives CSAM and they don't know what to do, we've had it where they panic, they want to send it to their parents, to a teacher, say, hey, I got this.
Right.
Or even to law enforcement. Don't do that. That's distribution.
Right.
Technically, it would be distribution of child sexual abuse material. So what we tell everybody is to memorialize that, keep it on your phone, and then report it to the police. So they have to see it. It's like anything. We have to make a determination. Does that meet the requirements of child sexual abuse material? The age requirements, we have to look at it. So in the past, it all depends on what platform you're on. Any of the major electronic service providers, Facebook, Instagram, right? They're required by law to report that. When there's something that comes across their networks, their platforms, they have to report that to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC. We'll use that acronym. So they report that to them. So in the case that you're explaining here, let's just say that was across Instagram. Somebody sent a message, which is now Facebook, Meta. Meta will report that to NCMEC, and then that becomes what we call a cyber tip. So NCMEC analysts will look at that and they'll go, this meets the requirements, comes to New Jersey, or at least we think it meets requirements, and we're going to send this to the Jersey State Police. We run the task force in New Jersey, and our sergeants are going to look at that tip when it comes in to see if it meets that. So in a case like what you just described, they can call their local department and have them do an investigation. But more often than not, when they're on one of these major platforms, that platform is also going to report it to NCMEC. And what we tell people is if you get something like that, every platform has a reporting function. So you want to report that abuse to that provider.
Oh,
So then it'll create, it basically kicks off the process. They'll see that, then they look at it, and then they'll start the process to get it to NCMEC.
Now, how often does that happen? Is that like on a daily basis, really? Is that something common?
That typical one, or just in general?
general.
Where Facebook reports to the state police.
So just for context here,
Yeah.
last year we received 18,176 cyber tips.
Wow.
There are days where we would get over 500 at a clip.
Oh my God.
Now, if we step back, now that's not actionable. So that's not 18,000 investigations, but there's a lot, right? Try to soak in my memories here. If we go back to 2018, 2019, we were around, let's call it approximately 2,500. We're at 27. We were just approaching 3,000.
And now we're at 18.
Now we're at 18.
Now, how do you handle that though? Is that like a manpower? I mean, how do you individually, or is that electronically a system that scans through all this? How does that work?
So it goes into this system. I have two sergeants, actually one, my assistant unit head, he helps out because that's how much we're getting. And they have to go through them one by one.
Yeah.
Now there could be times where, it's nothing, it's getting closed out, but it's still a few minutes to look at that and close that out. And then when there is, hey, this meets the standard, this is going to be a crime, we then determine, okay, where is it coming from? So they're going to put in these reports IP addresses. That's familiar. Internet protocol. That's how we know, oh, Comcast owns it, Verizon owns it. They may put an email associated with a phone number, something that they tie back to New Jersey. So the sergeants will look at it and say, okay, this is Passaic County. And in that term, if we know it's Passaic, they're part of our task force, we'll send them, that's it. If it comes back to where it looks like it's multi-jurisdictional and maybe say IP addresses or things are bouncing all over the place, then we'll obviously handle it.
What has been one of the, an example of one of the worst cases that you guys have handled with this type of situation?
In a cyber tip or just an investigation in general? Because we do different types of investigations. We do the cyber tips, which is the bulk.
Yeah.
And then we do what we call peer-to-peer cases. We have, I'm going to date myself here. Anybody remember Napster?
Yes.
I'll say LimeWire. That's a little bit more recent. That was what we call file sharing, right? You say that to some people, they don't remember what that was. Because everyone knows iTunes.
Yeah.
But
Right.
we have these networks that people still go out. They don't want to pay for their music, and it's free, They go on these networks, and they're sharing child abuse material. So we have our law enforcement programs that can scan those networks and find what's child sexual abuse material. So we have those types of investigations. We call them peer-to-peer, because that's what like I said, Napster, that would be called peer-to-peer. Then we do undercover. So we go all over, scour the internet, and we're looking at, those can be in a myriad of directions. So those are the three main types. The worst. Oh, wow. Cyber tips, we get a lot. We just had one from our affiliate. If I could put out Gloucester County for doing a great job. Just the tip came in, and a lot of times it'll just be a possession. They have this or they're sending it out. I don't mean to say it that way to minimize it. But with that, they found out that the suspect was sexually abusing a member of the family. So that happens a lot. You run into a situation where the studies show that it's about 50% of people that have, possess, or distribute this are also hands-on offenders. But we run into that situation where, how do we prove that? We can ask so many questions, and it may not just be a family member. It could be a complete stranger. So if they deny it, we can even polygraph, they can even fail it, and we run into that situation. How do we follow up with that? Because numbers show us that there is a large potential that they were also a hands-on offender. So we're dealing with those aspects of it. Some of the cases, we might have an idea going in that they are. So we can push it a little bit more. Maybe we know people to interview more, but in a random case, they could have just been a hands-on offender to a complete stranger, and we wouldn't know who that is. So we fight a lot of different battles.
How long does it usually take you to solve an actual case investigation?
It depends. So I hate to say a normal one because,
They're not normal, right?
No.
No, nothing's normal.
It all depends on how much legal process has to go out. There could be ones maybe we're sending out 1 or 2 subpoenas and it's pretty quick. It could be a month turnaround, which is pretty good. And then there could be ones that a regular cyber tip case go on for several months because you're tracking people down. Legally, we have to get our ducks in a row and corroborate what the report says. And it could be several months, 4, 5, 6 months. And then you could have other situations. Hey, somebody moved, and then you're tracking down where they went from. They could have been visiting here, and then there's a lot more that goes into it. Undercover cases, we've had them where they could be as quick as the same day, or me personally, I had one for 3.5 years and 2.5 years. So yeah, it
That's
varies.
a long time.
Yeah.
Now, these internet crimes that are being committed against children, are they usually repetitive offenders?
Yeah.
How does that work?
So, you have a lot of the offenders who are repetitive that, they get out, maybe they're waiting a trial, they're waiting, for sentencing. And if they're out on bail, you see a lot of them who we can put parameters on. They could put them in jail. We put, hey, you can't have internet access. So they put on these conditions. You can't have access with children. But, with the way technology is, people can go on anonymously and they can still
Right.
Still do it,
So,
yeah.
So we've seen that a lot. Yeah. Lock up a lot of repeat offenders. Actually, you talk about worst cases. One of the worst cases that I did when I was a pretty junior detective, the suspect was locked up years ago, AOL sending child abuse material. And then we fast forward, I don't remember how many years later that would have been, maybe 10 years. And he was hands-on abusing infants and toddlers. So.
What's the age range? Are these young adults, these older men or older females? Give me a little bit about that world as far as the
suspects.
Yeah.
Obviously using men. The age ranges are all different. Usually, if I had to pick an age, it's typically middle age. Let's say.
Like, where does it start?
We've had juveniles who are starting.
Like really bad things?
Yeah, really bad things, and that usually, I mean, hands-on. When I say really bad things, abusing family members or another kid, even the things they have, the videos. There's some that are more egregious than others, right? So, usually there's a nexus there. How does that, let's say a 16-year-old kid start into that? Well, there's a pattern. They had been exposed to that too, right? So that's where, this cycle that continues. But, like I said, most of our suspects, 30 and above. If I had to just pick one age range, but yeah.
Is there also like a profile as far as married, single, or, anything more than that?
We have a lot that are married. Oh yeah, and the spouses have no idea. It doesn't matter, married, single. It's all over the board.
How do you guys handle the aftermath of the actual the children when things like this happen to them? How does state police handle that?
So we have called child advocacy centers all throughout the state. Every state has their own, multiple, obviously. And if we think a kid was being abused, they're going to go to that advocacy center. They have specialized, whether it's officers, and they have civilians who interview children. And they're going to talk to them to see if they can reveal what. We have some troopers that have had the training, but these are the people at these advocacy centers are doing it all the time. So we'll rely on them. Go to the advocacy center. That's what it's there for, and then they'll have they can go back there for talk about it more, and then they're gonna make we'll reach out to family services, look into if child has to be removed from the home, get them the services that they're going to need, whether it's counseling and those sorts of things. But yeah, there's a large follow-up, and we know that there's a victim there. Those kids have to be interviewed, and we have to make a determination, which is often tough. Hey, does that kid have to be removed? That child have to be removed from that situation? And I know that family services doesn't like to do that, but there's the investigation. When you find one, we're not stopping there, right? We have to look. The chances are there's multiple. So when we're doing that is forensics through cell phones, computers. How can we? It's a puzzle piece, right? We're putting it together. So where does that stretch from? Who are they communicating with? So that goes into it too. We may have a case where it was simply, again, not to understate it simply, but just possession or distribution. And then as we look deeper into the forensic of it, we say, oh wow, this was a hands-on thing, and this thing is spiderwebbing out.
Right.
So those while the arrest might be closed, we might be finding victims days, weeks, months later, because the forensics can take a long time. As you mentioned, cell phones, they're, the amount of data they hold, computers, it takes a long time to go through.
How many detectives are assigned to the unit in the state, from the state police? And you also mentioned before that you did a multi-jurisdictional detail. Explain when you use other agencies or detectives from the prosecutor's office, or can you explain how, like, what would trigger that and what wouldn't, for example?
So our task, we have a New Jersey ICAC task force and crimes against children. Every state mimics pretty much the same thing. Obviously, some states are just different by the size of them. Mm-hmm. So we run the task force in New Jersey. we have our affiliates. Every county prosecutor's office is on board as an affiliate
Statewide.
statewide. So it's 21 counties. We have 21 affiliates in all the counties, and then each county can then sign up their local jurisdictions that they work with to bring them on. So I think we're, if memory serves me correct, we're 75 to 77 total affiliates. So that's 21 counties, and then spiderwebbing out to the local departments. So, and how the counties work with their local departments, it's completely up to them. So when we get a case in, like I mentioned earlier, if we know, hey, this is strictly coming back to Passaic, Mercer, they're gonna get that case. If
You mean the prosecutor's office?
the prosecutor's office
Right,
is going to get that affiliate that runs that county. There's times where, like 18,000 tips, counties are going to be overburdened. So if we know, hey, this county is getting crushed this month, we'll do our best to try to help them. But to your other question, we have 12 detectives in our unit, 15 total. Troopers are in the unit. We have 3 civilians that do our forensics, look at the computers, look at cell phones, and we have actually 2 part-time civilians that are helping out with admin too. So, yeah, we have more than most of our affiliates do, but we're also overburdened.
Sure.
Some of the affiliates may have 1 or 2 people doing it. So, when it's a multi-jurisdictional aspect, what we look at, like, hey, this tip showing, hey, the suspect could be in Red Bank, they could be in Passaic, then that's when we'll just jump in, because obviously we have the state jurisdiction.
And does any of the cases, have they expanded outside of New Jersey?
Oh my God, yeah.
Outside the country, maybe?
Yeah, funny.
So what happens when that comes up?
So we have federal partners that are part of the task force: Homeland Security, FBI, Secret Service. So if there's something, say, that comes in, hey, it looks like it's New Jersey, but then we determine it happens all the time. The National Center will send us a tip that says, hey, the victim is in New Jersey, or the suspect's in New Jersey, but your suspect or victim is in Pennsylvania or wherever. So then we'll work with them.
Got it.
Right. We've had undercover cases. Suspects have come here from Canada, from Germany, traveled here to have sex with
Kids.
Yeah.
Wow.
As parents, it's our job to protect our kids. What would you tell parents? Is there anything that parents should be looking out for as far as to protect their kids with this type of next crimes?
If I had the exact answer, that'd be a millionaire. What I tell everybody, and I'm a parent. My son's only 5.5, but I've already started to explain to him. I mean, don't judge me. I let him use the iPad.
Yeah.
What I tell him is communicate. You have to speak to your kids. It's the best tool. It's free, right? Everybody wants, hey, can I download an app? Can I, buy software? Yeah, they have apps out there that I'm not going to endorse one over the other, but that'll kind of like a watchdog that'll tell you what your kids are doing. And if, people have iPhone users, you have the family plan, you can kind of see things that are going on if they're downloading. But talk to them, because you got to know, kids, if you're not engaged, I'm not saying you have to know the ins and outs of every app, but just communicate with them. Let them know, hey, if you get into a situation, because we see these where kids are sending out nude photos, right? And it turns out the other person on the end starts what we call sextorting them. I want money. I'm going to tell your friends. And they're afraid to go to their parents and say, I screwed up, I did this.
Is that what's happening with kids?
Yeah. Well, we could talk. Yeah, it's
Shit.
bad.
Okay. Wow.
Bad. Awful. We could talk about that in a minute. I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but they'll do that. And then the kids don't know what to do. And they don't want to tell their parents they're embarrassed. You made a mistake, right? Let's stop it before it gets too bad, because what has happened is kids have committed suicide because they don't know what to do.
Oh, jeez.
I've seen that all over. So what we do is talk to your kids, understand. And I tell people, look, you don't want to take that hard line. People, you got to be a parent, not a friend. Who pays for that cell phone? You pay for it, right?
Yeah.
I want to see what you're doing.
Damn right.
I want to see what you're doing. We give them some slack, right? Some privacy. You don't get a helicopter over them, but you want to see what's going on. Talk to them about what can happen. I've already told my son, and I practice what I preach, right? He's 5. One day, I let him go on YouTube Kids. Before that, he was going on regular YouTube. And it's just dinosaurs. Dinosaurs and Bluey or whatever else. But whatever he clicks, and there's into YouTube, there's chats going up and down, back and forth. He doesn't know he got there. My wife sees it. She's like, look at this. They're sending links in there to adult pornography.
Right.
So I said, buddy,
Let's get off this.
kids. there's, and I tell him all the time, Daddy catches bad guys on this app. He wants to go to,
Oh, shit.
what is it? Roblox and Minecraft. No. His kids at school use it. Daddy catches bad guys. And fortunately, my son listens. He never went back onto regular YouTube. He goes to YouTube Kids. But I tell him, this is the problem. Hey, talk to your kids. You could get in trouble. And I know every situation is different, right? Kids are in school. You need a cell phone. Parents, your situation's at home. Kids want cell phones earlier and earlier. But with that, the old Spider-Man line, with great power comes great responsibility. Your kid's going to have a cell phone at 9 and 10 years old. Understand that they may not necessarily be getting in trouble. There's bad people on the other end of whatever you're communicating that are trying to get you in trouble or going to hurt you. I'm not saying, hey, you're going to do something bad with this, but you could potentially be put at risk. So you have to communicate.
LT, so give me a play-by-play. So the kid goes into an app.
Mm-hmm.
And how does this start? How do they fall into this web? If you had to give me play-by-play from the start.
So there was a scam, and I think it's still kind of going around. It's I should say, I know it's still going around. It's slowed down nationally, the whole country. They were targeting boys. And let's be honest, boys are a little dumber than girls. They fall for this easy.
Exactly.
They boys are more naive than girls, and they'd get a message from what they think is a girl. Hey, they're just general conversation, not thinking that I don't know this person. And then she may send a picture. The boy's like, oh, she's cute, and then they start asking questions, and then next thing you know, hey, look, what do you look like? Boy said, here's what I look like, and then what's the next question?
Of course.
And what do? Because they think that this girl likes me.
Damn.
And then it follows up with, okay, now I need more. Or I'm going to tell your friends and family. And you're going to send me money. You're going to, PayPal me, Venmo me, send me gift cards, whatever. And that's what I was referring to before.
LT, I'm sorry, what age? Just give me an example.
They were
The youngest,
adolescent.
with extortion problems.
Mostly teens.
Got it.
Mostly teens.
Yep.
But you can go a little bit younger than that, but mostly, let's say high school age.
Got it.
Middle school, high school. And what they had tracked down, so Homeland Security and the FBI tracked down that these suspects were coming from Costa Rica and Nigeria. So they worked with those governments to arrest these suspects out of the country. And I won't get to all the intricacies of it, money mules and whatnot, but if I can remember the numbers, they made almost 1,000 arrests, if I remember, somewhere around that. I don't know the exact number, between 500, maybe 1,000 arrests, and a couple hundred victims 500 victims or so from this. Okay. And like I mentioned earlier, you had some of these boys are being victimized that ultimately committed suicide because they didn't know what to do.
Jeez. That's tough.
So it's simple as that, and you can get it on platforms. You can get it on Snapchat. You can get it, any of them, where there's people doing that. They're just trying to blackmail this boy or girl. Like I said, mostly boys. Yeah.
So they're mostly boys.
Mostly boys.
You would think there would be girls. I mean,
I said boys are a little more naive, and they just fall for that. Oh, some random hot girl that wants to
right.
Send me a message. And I guess girls have a little bit better judgment, and
this makes sense.
I'm not jumping into this, but not to say that girls obviously don't get themselves in sticky situations. But this particular scam I'm referring to was let's say 99.9% boys.
Boys, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of something with current events, and it's a different topic. It has nothing to do with computers, but is the New Jersey State Police dealing with any kids coming over the border with sex trafficking? Is your unit involved in any part of that? Is any of that coming to New Jersey from from the border and stuff? Are you doing?
We have not seen that.
Okay,
but we have a human trafficking unit that is completely separate from. What
we do. So there's another unit.
There's another
okay.
Human trafficking. That's what that. So we have not seen that in any of our investigations or the information that we've got, but that would be a question that I might punt over to them.
Got it.
That they can answer a little better.
Wasn't sure. Right.
Now, do you guys have any as far as when you detect a perp? Like, how do you do the training for one of the one of the troopers to, you know, act like they're a minor? Where do you get this information? Is there a special type of training that you get, or a psychological type of angle with this? How does that work?
A great question. Yep. So there is training. There's national training that not just us. Everybody who does ICAC investigations takes this training. It's weird. And so everybody's trained the same way. So in the event that we have a case that I have to refer to Ohio, they've went through the same training and they know the steps and the procedures that we should take. So yeah, and to do that, to do any of the undercover, they need to go get this training first so they understand how it works.
Lieutenant, you're very knowledgeable in this unit, so can you tell us how long have you been assigned to this unit, and you've been in charge of it for a bunch of years, I guess. Could you tell me how long you've been just doing this types of investigations?
I started in 2009. 2009, I went to 2013, and 3 years was in our missing persons unit. And I came back to the ICAC unit in 2016. I've been here ever since, and I've been the lieutenant. I'm coming up on 2 years.
Okay.
LT, your division is probably one of the hardest divisions to work in law enforcement. I mean, I really believe that.
Not to be, because I'm biased, I say it all the time, 1,000%, and I would debate that with anybody.
What do you guys do after seeing all these very harmful and tragic things happening to children? What do you guys do to you and everyone in your unit to somehow, I guess, put this aside and move forward, and I guess come back the next day and not be affected by it? How does that work?
Another great question. So right now what we do is we utilize the assets that we have in the state police. So we have an employees assistance program, counselors that we can talk to for myriad of reasons. So yearly, what we do, we're actually doing them now. The counselors from that unit are going to come down and speak with our troopers, obviously anonymously, but I require that, myself included. Everybody that works in our unit, you're going to talk to an EAP member, whether it's about what we're seeing or anything else you got going on.
Right.
You got to get it off your chest. You're required to go speak with them. They also offer training throughout all the ICACs. They have former ICAC investigators. They have counselors. They come out and do these trainings. We have one, I believe it's next month, the end of the month. Kate May's hosting it. So you can go there, and again, we're going to talk about distressors, how to deal with all this stuff, mental health, right? Unfortunately, after that, there's not much. And I pose this question: what do we? And I've had our command asked, "Hey, what are you guys doing for mental health?" And I said, "This is the best I can do." We've talked about, should we have a time limit in the unit, and maybe after a couple of years you got to get out there. And most of the people in our unit, we don't have a hard set. Hey, you have to go do something else. But most have taken a break. So I went to missing persons for 3 years. My assistant unit, he was doing executive protection. I had the sergeants do academy assignments. One of our other sergeants jumped over to just do cyber crimes, anything but this. So that's one thing that we can do. We've talked about even implementing that. But after that, it's really, again, like I mentioned, with parents, communication, talk. Hey, how's everybody doing? Do you guys need a break? I try to keep it as laid back in the unit as possibly as you can. There are the days I need a mental health break. Take a day off, a mental health break, and just take away from this. Because what you're looking at, said the hardest job in the state police, absolutely. You might be looking one day at an infant being raped.
I know, it's great.
And you go home and do you have kids?
Right.
When I got into this, I didn't have kids, and I hear the stories. I'm like, I'm Superman. It's not going to bother me. And I will be 100% honest with you. It bothered me, but nothing like it did after I had my son.
Sure.
And the things that, hey, our fatal accident guys, the things that they see, guys and girls see, horrible. I wouldn't want to do that. People say, I wouldn't want to do what you do. You guys would be able to do it. If you had to, you'd get through it. But the things that stick with you are the sounds that you're never going to forget.
Yeah.
If you've been to an autopsy, there's a smell that never goes away. There's sounds that you can't forget. And that's why it's important to talk. And I mention that all the time when I speak with those are things that stick with you.
Well, the New Jersey State Police, we know, is an agency that is out front with trying to help the troopers with mental health and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. I'm sure that's a very big thing that you deal with in your unit.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just a thing. The average person just never sees what you guys see. And a traumatic event, what is it? A civilian sees what, Danny? Is it 4 or 5 in their lifetime?
Yeah, and
The average
800, over 800.
over 800
Yeah.
in their career alone. So
Yeah.
the numbers are just through
Yeah.
the roof. So and we found that we spoke with Colonel Callahan, and he's aware of the damage that does to all the men, and he's trying to come out front and put these counselors together and stuff like that. So we think that's fantastic. The state police should just promote that to all the state police across the country, that you guys are really doing a good job. You're trying to help the guys.
My vision was especially when I took over the unit, was I mean, it might sound cheesy in a sense. I want to be at the forefront, not just for the state police because we only have one ICAC unit, but I want it to be what other states look at and say, hey, New Jersey has it right. I want to model them. So when I started, we had a protocol of you're dealing with employees' assistants, and that kind of went away. And I said, no, we're gonna mandate this, and we're gonna bring in our other training, the ICAC training, once a year. Fortunately, our task force, they can bring it in. So they bring in, hey, you guys are going to go to this. You are going to this. And then, like I said, making it very, very relaxed. Hey, take a mental health day. Won't get in trouble for this. Hey, dress down Fridays.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to be a little bit easier for you. If you need to take that time, we got to work out. We have to take our annual physical. Guys, go work out. De-stress that
Yes.
way. Don't distress at home with the bottle.
Right.
Or, getting yourself into a domestic situation. Take what you need. And if you need time, so again, communication, tell us. And cops are, we don't share our feelings. And there's nothing wrong with, I've done this too long, I need a break. And you're not quitting. Just, you got to look out for yourself. And I know there's other agencies that have had that, or where former ICAC detectives have come up, hey, and they need this break. And fortunately, we've had those great detectives throughout other agencies who've come up with different software that we use to mitigate detectives, not just all detectives doing this, to not having to seeing the contraband. Right? We have tools that we can use. We're doing an examination that can say, I'm just going to find the child abuse material. So that's just to reduce how much you have to view it. So
You lost me. The exposure of the images and stuff. Not all the detectives are seeing the same thing. Is that what you mean?
No. So what I mean is, they're seeing the same thing, but we have tools where, let's say you're doing an exam, I'm looking at a cell phone, right?
Okay.
And normally you might have to, the examiner or the trooper has to go through and look at,
Right.
hey, I got to count how many you have on here because that's going to constitute how much the crime could be that varying degrees. I can run this program that's going to look at it all
And do it for you.
and tell me.
Oh, good.
However,
I got it. Okay.
You have to verify it once you.
if there is something new, if we had, dad is molesting his child, and that's not something people see, you got to look at that.
Listen,
You still got to look at things and describe it
I
for
got
your
absolutely.
reports.
For court, right? I mean,
It's just minimizing how much you're looking at it, but it's not going away. And like I mentioned, the tips that come in, they're going to look at it every time a tip comes in.
Yeah.
So.
Listen, we're retired now, so we can say more and we can express how we feel, right? I just yesterday we were having a conversation. There was a female that went on a vacation for 10 days, and her baby, she left her baby in a crib, and she comes back 10 days, baby's dead. And to me, really, we were talking about that, and I'm really, fucking pissed off about that. It got me so freaking angry because I realized that the amount of torture that 17-month baby is suffered. And so I have to really emphasize. So you go back to a video, just for people listening, just understand this. You go back to a video and you're actually seeing a child being sexually assaulted, and I mean, that alone, it plays that anger that I felt yesterday, just imagining and not actually seeing the kid go through this torture, but you actually have to see it, and that is alarming to me because I know after a while that has to. I don't care how strong you are. Just like the children that are suffering, that's a long-term effect. You guys are in the same type of situation, and that's why it's very important for me to understand, like, really, how do you? And I know there's never going to be enough, right? I mean, let's just come down to it. It's never going to be enough. I mean, do you have anything negative, you as a person, like, if you don't, it's hard to admit it, but I mean, you have to take some of that home, right? You cannot totally stop.
I've shared this story before in just one instance where, you know, it was a couple of years ago. It was after my son was born, and it was a sergeant at the time, and I'm looking at these tips come in. That was in my duties then. And I see one of them, it's a young boy. And like I mentioned before, I was Superman in my head. It doesn't bother me. And I remember that day, and I remember one of these things, you know, those memories that stick with you, the anger that I got that day. And I never felt that before, because I'm seeing my son there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I had to tell myself, and I'm like, I'm taking this case. This is mine. Yeah. And then I'm like, wait, I had to tell myself, not that it's okay. This person who was behind this tip, they didn't do this. This was something that came from somewhere else. So while obviously it's not good that that person had it, he didn't create that. I had to take a step back to understand that. And I mentioned earlier that is one in particular. And then the sounds. I remember I was a pretty junior detective and just having a case, and you know, usually you have the sound down. Why? Because I don't want to hear kids screaming when they're being raped. You know, and that's to your point. People need to understand that what you're seeing. It's not that it's okay, a casual touching of a child. Obviously, that's still egregious, but I mean, we're talking about torture. We're talking about somebody who, when they're abusing a kid, it's, you know, it's
Torture.
It's torture. It's horrific.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, yeah. You can't get rid. That's why I say, distress. Go work out. Try to get your mind off this as best you can outside of alcohol or you know, any other addictions, and just
Self-medication.
Self-medication. Go in your best way to de-stress. We know just police officers in general, just working out is going to help you de-stress from the job, but especially here, take that break. Hey, you had enough. If a detective comes to me and says, you know, it could be lunchtime, I had enough for today. Come home.
Yeah.
I get it.
Is there any tools you wish you had today to help you combat these type of crimes?
Well, I wish I had. Oh my God! See, it's something that we never had to look at it, but obviously that's not going to happen. And I just wish more people to, not just me, everybody, more manpower, to handle these cases. And I get it. Like, hey, you know, you tell somebody you're getting assigned to your ICAC unit, and they didn't volunteer to be there. You think they're gonna how bad do you think they're gonna want to be there? Hey, by the way, you're getting assigned here, and you got to look at kids getting raped. You know, so you got to want to do it. So you can't just give me anybody. Correct. They got to want to be into it too. They got to want to be
exposed.
You know, they got to want to be exposed to it.
Yeah.
So I guess I would say if you can give me people that are motivated and behind this mission.
LT, how's that work? And is there guys in your unit that really don't want to be there, but they?
I certainly hope not. So we.
That's a hard question, Rick. By the way.
No. So the way it works with state police is, when you're going to come off the road and you want to become a detective, you go into a specialist spot. It's like applying for another job, which actually tomorrow we have interviews. So we post it, they can see what the unit's posting it, and then they send their resumes in. So hopefully they put their resume in, they ask for an interview, they want to be there.
Got it. Okay.
So, yeah.
Which crimes are you afraid of the most? Like that are just happening much more than the others?
All of it. I mean, I say this all the time. It still amazes me, the amount of years I've been doing this, how many offenders there are. You can't live anywhere in this state where there's not. You know, we have tools where we can look at and see what's just being shared. Now, again, this is the stuff that we know. Remember I mentioned it's identified. We can go on this and look throughout the state of how much. It still blows my mind. The tips that are coming in, it's unavoidable. The one in particular, I wouldn't say that there's one that I'm seeing more of. I mean, I guess just the sharing of it now with the internet, you know, just the boom of social media, that's much more. It's easier to produce this stuff. Years ago, when maybe in the internet's infant stages and before that, the stuff wasn't getting out there because how are you sending it in the mail, which they used to do.
Yeah.
You know, I tell everybody, you know, you always talk about the creepy guys in the neighborhood driving around in a van, you know, offering candy to kids. Well, guess what the new van is? The internet.
Yeah.
Right. And it's easier to mask yourself behind that. You can't see the guy in the van. You could see the internet. You don't know who's behind it. So, yeah, all of it is just, it's just exploding. You know, not, I wouldn't say one particular area, maybe just the distribution of it, because there's so much more easy to be made, pictures and videos, you know, phones. But
So it's getting worse. It's getting worse and worse and worse, and the manpower.
There's no stop in sight.
There's no stop, and you guys are basically tapped out right now. Like you have enough work already, and it just keeps increasing, right? So
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just me. That's so we have I'm the ICAC commander for New Jersey. We have a commander in every state has one. I have to go to our task force meeting. We do them quarterly. I got to go in a few weeks, and it's the same conversations we have with all these commanders getting in the room. They're all saying the same thing. So it's not like New Jersey's tips went up.
right, I got it.
Every state's
It's across
went
the
up.
board.
Across the board.
Yeah,
Now you're not checking every tip, or you are?
every tip.
Really?
Every
Okay.
tip. Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it's, you know, we have to look at it to see what it is, to know if there's a crime there. I can't, you know, I wish we could just close it out, but well, you know, God forbid there's something there and we don't look at it. You know, it's a lot of liability.
Of course. Yeah.
So
I was thinking
every
about manpower. Like you wouldn't have the manpower to check every tip.
tip, great. Yeah, I mean, we have the manpower, not enough, and that's the same thing. Everybody. So you may have another, like I said, another ICAC. Fortunately, in the state police, that's all we do. Our county affiliates, they're wearing multiple hats. They're doing cyber crimes, they're doing sex crimes, they might be doing arson. So they can't dedicate the people like we can, the resources. And they got to still look for them.
What do you say to the person that I don't know, is contemplating maybe? Well, I don't even know how that works. Sharing these things are there normal people getting these type of pictures or whatever it is, and then sending them to their friends just because they're dumb and not sick? I mean, how does that? I mean,
We've had cases, believe it or not, you know, Facebook Messenger and like WhatsApp, you can get viral stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And me sending, I'm a bad guy, send something to you.
yeah.
It can happen. You didn't ask for it, right? And you never send it forward. There have been people who mean well, and they see something that it's egregious, and then they post it. Hey, we got to get this guy. This guy's, and obviously don't do that. So that's the situation where, yeah, I wasn't asking for it. I got it, and you'll see that. And we call them viral videos, and that happens. So, yeah, you can get something by accident, but you know, if I've had this, unfortunately, I've been asked this question a lot recently. You got to find you're those cases that I just mentioned happen not very often, but you're not getting it by accident. When you're searching the internet and searching for adult pornography, you're not coming across this stuff by accident.
So
You're looking.
if you're sharing it, your intent is not.
Yeah, I mean, outside of that
Yeah.
that situation I just outlined there, if you're finding it because you're looking for it, you don't just randomly happen, because even adult pornography sites, they're required by law. They don't want that on there. They're making millions, if not billions of dollars. They don't want to be shut down because people are putting up, you know, child abuse material or young kids that could look like they're having sex on their sites. It's going to kill their business. So they're reporting it too. So if you're finding it and I got it off, you know, whatever, a website. No, you didn't.
Lieutenant, you said Facebook will report it, right? For example, how fast do they discover this and report it? Is it like right away, or does this go on and on and on, and then they finally look at it? Or how does that work with Facebook, for example?
Not to throw them under the bus too. There could be stuff that's right away, and then there could be stuff, hey, they didn't get to it. They have to prioritize the amount they have to. So we have, in these tips I mentioned, we have what we call different priorities. And if we get a high priority one, it looks like it's imminent danger, kids going to be hands-on, they will get that to us immediately.
Okay.
If there looks like something that could, you know, again, that could be just possession, it might take a little while because it's behind all the other stack they have. Too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, they only have so many manpower.
Exactly.
Same thing. Yeah, you know.
So it could be a couple days, weeks, and even months, and then they'll do the different providers will do what they call a purge. Because at the end of the year, they'll say, "Hey, we got to go through stuff. Stuff gets buried. Like, you know, when you got a lot of emails, my email got buried. It gets buried, and then they say, "Oh, here's all this stuff," and then they get it over to us.
LT, for the for a perp out there that's doing this, I mean, in the state of New Jersey, what are his chances? Do we have a good do we have good odds that we're going to catch?
Their chances are not good.
Very good.
I'm not saying this because I'm a lieutenant or anything. Our task force is probably the best.
Top shelf.
We are every detective that is throughout this state that's on this task force is amazing. I mean, not to put my guys to the side, the ones that are handling multiple. I say it all the time. I don't know how you guys do it, and my goal was to make us the best, and not just because it was me, because we are. I see the production that we've put out, and it might take. I'm not saying you do something today and I'm get you tomorrow. We'll get you. It's gonna happen.
Yeah,
You're on borrowed time.
Good.
LT, how long you been in this division, this unit?
So I started in 09. So I did, 4 years? The 2013, I did missing persons for 3, and then I've been back here since 16. So I don't know. Can't do that math real quick. I think it's like 11 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Got it. So your psyche is probably much different than a lot of people then, right? I mean, for that long.
Yeah, I mean, with that comes good experience that you can pass on to, other members, newer detectives. And fortunately for me now, as a lieutenant, I'm not exposed to it as much, right? Mm-hmm. You kind of move up and you're not doing it. You step away from it, not doing the investigations. So that kind of helps. But yeah, I have a different view from having seen it for as long.
For so long, right?
Yeah. And just being engrossed in it.
What do you tell the cop that is contemplating maybe going to a unit like yours?
I said before, you got to want to do it. Make sure you want to do it. And I've had this conversation with some detectives who even thought, transferring over. Think about this first. What you're going to get into, what you're going to see, especially if they have kids, don't have kids, you have niece and nephews. Think about that, because I can't really, a detective can't really know until they see it how they're going to react to it. So you got to think about it, and just, hey, do you want to do this? I want to make sure you want to do this, because it's a dedication more than any other unit. I mean, every trooper, every police officer is dedicated in what they do, or they should be dedicated in what they do, but especially here because of what you have to see. So make sure you're in it 100%.
You said there's not an exact profile of a pedophile or one of these criminals, correct?
If I'm being completely honest, a middle-aged white male, but that profile, we've seen it, especially recently, we've seen that skew away from that. And I think as more time goes by with social media and just the things that come out there for connectivity, it starts to broaden that profile. But I think if you'd ask anybody else who does it, that would be the main profile, is a middle-aged white male.
And as far as internet sex crimes, usually they say when it's when some type of rape occurs is a family member. How does that apply with internet sex crimes? Is it someone they know, or is it a complete stranger?
No, yeah. I mean, like I said before about the statistics with hands-on offenders, doesn't always mean that was their family member. Yeah, that's probably more proclivity that it was in family, and not to get too descriptive here, too gross. There are categories in this, right? So we have offenders that are into incest, that's what they want to see. And then we have these offenders who, believe it or not, they draw a line. Well, I won't into incest. It'll be someone else, not my family. So yeah,
but there's guys that actually want to do that.
There's guys that want family, and there's ones that don't. I'll draw that line. I'm not going to touch my own. Yeah. So
and they probably look down on the guy that wants.
Right. I mean, like.
Yeah.
The fact that he said that is crazy to me. I can't.
Yeah. It's a whole world.
There's been trainings we've gone to where where we had doctors who were doing these, their post-conviction studies, and they would talk to these offenders. So now again, post-conviction, no Miranda involved. They're just open up because they're doing these studies, and they would actually categorize it like, oh no, I won't do that. No, I'm touching that's disgusting. I won't touch my 4-year-old son, but I'll touch that 4-year-old.
But another 4-year-old is okay in their brain.
Yeah, and they look that's gross. Or there was a guy one time. Remember he was talking, and So the doctor had asked him about, you know, the homosexual tendencies because of the young boys. I'm not gay. He got so offended. But you're abusing young boys. No, I like doing that, but I wouldn't have sex with an older man. That's how they are. That's how they're translating this in their brain. Wow. So,
Do you think that this is a? I mean, what is the reason why this is happening in their brain with your experience? Is it that this is just a sex thing? Is it a manipulation thing? What is it like?
I'm gonna quote my first SFC I had in this unit. I just made a comment where I said, "I don't get this," and he said, "It's good, Paul, because if you did, we'd probably be investigating you." If I understood it, I could tell you this much, that sometimes, I think I mentioned earlier, where if you've been abused, that cycle continues, and some people think like, "Oh, I'm gonna make sure that doesn't happen," and there are people say, "Hey, I was abused. I'm going to be an advocate to make sure this stops."
Mm-hmm.
But then there's others, that cycle, and that's what gets in their head. They were trained, groomed, and just the cycle continues.
Right.
So if I had to point to one little thing, I'd say that, because we have seen that. We've seen suspects say, you know,
This happened to me. Yeah.
It happened to me.
That's an interesting thing that you just said. For example, they look at a 4-year-old kid, and it's okay if it's another kid, but not their own. I can't even believe you just said that.
And
that's shocking to me.
if I can expand on this, because personal from a case I had a suspect who, the way he viewed it, he was, and this is his words, "I'm a child lover. I'm not harming a kid. In the course of this investigation, it was I look down on pedophiles, so they're harming kids. I'm a child lover," and there is a group of that. So that's, I'm going to call it rationalization, but they have that too.
LT, this child lover, what was he doing with children?
He was trying to buy a 12-year-old girl, and he was trying to buy a 12-year-old girl. Unfortunately, we were able to stop that. It was an undercover
He
investigation.
ended up buying one of you guys.
Like you said it, not me. Yeah,
Good.
he bought 30 years in prison in Indiana.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good. That's horrible. When you hear these stories, it's crazy. I can't believe you said that, but you come across stuff that the average guys just never see, and that's why we're talking right now. So you're giving us some information that we can share with people. It's just crazy.
LT, I'm going to be wrapping this up a little bit, but I want to ask you this question: is what apps should we be looking out for, if any?
That's another. If I had a nickel for every time I had asked that, anything that your kids, any app they can communicate with someone else. So people say, "Oh, should they stay away from Instagram or Snapchat?" It could be Minecraft, Roadblocks, Instagram, Facebook, all of that, all of the Discord, as long as they can communicate. And because trust me, I do not know how all of them work. The way we learn by investigations, you give me the ins and outs of Discord, I don't know if I haven't investigated it, but I know that they have chat components. Video games, right? PlayStation, Xbox, they can talk with someone else. There's communication. So any app, which is pretty much everything.
Everything, right?
It doesn't matter. Anything where they can communicate with someone else who they don't know who it is, that's what you should look out for. So the short answer, everything.
Everything, yeah. So that basically means everything.
The thing you need to tell kids, and I was touched on this earlier, and parents, the communication is, talk to your kid, let them understand that the other person on the end of that app, text message, you don't know who they are. I mean, unless you've obviously met them. In this day and age, it's so easy for me. I want to pretend to be, I use this example. I don't want to date myself. I was just going to say Tom Brady. I mean, he's retired. I want to be Tom Brady. I can go online. I could take his pictures. I could take videos, and I could make an account and tell him I'm Tom Brady. And that can make it look convincing, right? And people fall for that. And the kids, kids being naive does not mean you're talking to the person, just like that scam I referenced, does not mean you're talking to a 10, 12-year-old boy or a 10, 12-year-old girl. So that's the message they need to hear.
In your personal life, I'm assuming that you might have trust issues.
Oh, if my wife and I can hear this. That's a loaded question. Probably a little bit of a skeptic.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're going to take this job. Another quick story: I was on vacation last year, and ironically, one of the other task force members I worked with for years, we're vacationing in the same place, and we knew that we saw each other, and we're there, and just you're more kin to looking at people who wear it. And we both said the same thing, the same person, and you know, you start to give that information to your wives, pick up on that, you know, and they start to look out too, just to be vigilant. But both our wives laughed and said, "Well, do what we did for as long as we did."
Yeah. You know, LT, if all parents were suspicious when it comes to their kids, I would say that this will probably be half the problem. Is that safe
Not
to?
necessarily suspicious, but just, you know, like I said, communicate, just be engaged. Don't turn a blind eye. My son or daughter would never do that. Meaning, send a nude photo. You know.
Well,
they do. Not that they want it. They're willing to. They were taught. They were convinced into doing it.
And that's got to be so rough for like a normal family that just has a teenager that did a stupid mistake, and all of a sudden they got their kids exposed naked. That's got to be horrific, man.
Look, there's erasers on the end of pencils for a reason. And I tell kids this when I would go out and we do presentations at schools for parents and for kids. I'm honest with the kids. I say, hey, look, if I was in your shoes right now, or if I had when I was growing up what you guys have, I may not have this job right now, because I get it. It's tempting, you know, what's out there, but they may not necessarily be a bad kid. They were convinced, groomed by the bad person on the other end of that.
Got it. Rick, you have anything?
You mentioned an iPad. Now, my kids had iPads, but my kid's iPad to me was just for going and doing stuff. But they ended up, my son at the time was able to put something on my on the iPad that made it work as a phone.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to
you can communicate over Wi-Fi.
Right, but so the point was, like, here I am, I'm giving my son an iPad thinking he can go play a game.
Tetris.
And he did something, so he was able to talk to his friend with that. Now, I didn't know that it could do that. You know, so, and maybe I'm being ignorant here, but, like, I was like, I told my wife, I go, how did he take the iPad and talk to his friend Brandon down the street? How did he do that?
Right.
And that's what
you
what
put something in it and made it work like a phone almost. I was like, whoa. So I think some parents have no clue what their children are involved in.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I mentioned earlier. You know, you don't have to know. I should say, you're not going to. There's no way the parents are going to know every single app that's on that phone or how it works. I'd say we don't either. Nope. It's just impossible how much is out there. But if you know that they're on one a lot, know how that works. You know, and that's also a deterrent to the kids. And you know, hopefully no kids are hearing this. It's a little some parents know. If they know mom and dad are asking questions about that, they're going to be, ooh. Yeah. They know about this.
That's true.
And it's going to deter them from like trying to do sneaky things, hide things. I mean, there's apps out there, we won't get into all this, but you can hide, you can have a bad app. Your mom and dad don't want them to have this certain app. You can download another app and hide it in there.
Right.
I mean, hey, kids are raised with this. We didn't have this, so it is like, it's second nature to them. They know it better than we do.
That's true.
So we're dealing with that. So we gotta go re-educated. They're born with it. So they're gonna be.
It's a valid point.
You know,
and you know, some people just are not computer guys.
Yeah.
You know, and we at our age we have no choice. We have to learn everything quickly because our children are getting it faster than we are.
Especially cops, right? We don't like change.
Cops are the worst. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's. You know, kids, it changes. It's just they're used to it. It's ever adapting, and especially in this area, anything to do with, you know, cybercrime is ever adapting. That you got to stay up on it. So yeah, I mean that's one thing I would tell parents. Just, you know, again, communication, but know what they're using. Just know how it works. And I'm not telling you to be an expert on it, but if you know you can communicate with, or your child can communicate with someone else on there. You know,
yeah, well,
you know that's
an invitation for crime and for stuff like this. Absolutely, right. Yeah. Good point.
LT, thank you so much for coming by. I want to thank everyone from the New Jersey State Police, including New Jersey Colonel Callahan, for having you come with us, and thank you for sharing this helpful.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys. It's a very important message that needs to get out there, and I thank you guys.
Yeah, again, thank you very much for coming today, because I believe that this is a topic that there's just not enough information about it. You know, and You know, just like you said, teaching parents to monitor what their children are doing online and stuff like that, and you know that's a very important thing. And we appreciate you coming and sharing some information with us. Thank you very much.
And I'm glad that you're doing it because you have a lot of years experience. So I want these bad guys to be caught, man. If anyone needs to be caught, it's these freaking guys, man.
They will be. Trust me. I guess they will be.
Absolutely. Thank you, LT.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Lieutenant, thank you very much.